Ladies and gentlemen, the second segment is about to get underway. Please be seated.
感謝大家繼續返返。
Thank you very much. Welcome back to our session. And this is the Urban Mastermind and the Myth of Co-Living. We have a lot of snippets on screen. And we are presenting a lot of artwork and all the installations of art. So we are giving you a sneak peek of all the installations from today all the way through till September. You're going to be seeing all these installations in North Point. Now, other than the installations, it is important for us to have interactions. We have the dozen tours, we have the craft bazaars and participatory theatre and music tours. All of them will be featured in the Fire North Point. What is the point of doing all this? The idea is to enhance the quality of life. How do we design public space? How can we position ourselves in a way that we can enhance our quality of life? We're pleased to have a weighty speaker, the Director of Asia, BIG, Mr. Eric Lee, who will be sharing with us, and Ian will be moderating this session. Eric, over to you, please.
Director of Asian Projects at BIG, Bjarke Ingels Group. I'm happy here to join with you today virtually to share some of our work and design ideas. We're globally multidisciplinary practice with over 600 colleagues, 24 partners spreading across 5 offices. With head office in Copenhagen, New York, London, Barcelona. Shenzhen office is something that we recently opened last year. Over the past 20 years, our practice has always been focused on finding solutions to shape our built environment to improve the quality of our lives and find ways to contribute to the society through our project. Hedonistic sustainability is the idea of us trying to promote being able to enjoy our lives and being sustainable and socially responsible while through our projects. So for instance, the city of Copenhagen has been keen on keeping the waterways of Copenhagen clean with a tremendous amount of efforts over the past couple of decades. So the water is very clean that so when the summertime comes, people could just jump in for a cool dip in the water. We wanted to celebrate that. And so with the Copenhagen Harbor Bath, we have extended the adjacent park over the water, enhancing the public social life. So citizens of Copenhagen could come for a swim in the middle of the city so they don't have to travel out to a beach during the summer days. In Aarhus, second largest city in Denmark, we've also done a peer development where we proposed also a harbor bath in the overall master plan. So here you can see the positive effect of how lively urban life can happen along the promenades. But of course, water is not just a source of leisure lifestyle that we incorporate with our design. In this urban rigor project, we were developing an alternative economical solutions with our client to deal with student housing shortage in the city. So we've put together 9 40-feet containers, upcycling containers on top of a floating basement, like a boat. So in effect that you essentially get 12 apartments out of these units, 30 square meter each, equipped with basic appliances enough for one or a couple students to live in. This was the first prototype that we developed. In the center, you can see there's an open courtyard, green courtyard for bikes or for barbecue events. On the roof, there's a large terrace that gives you a great view out to the sea. The solar panel and the green roof is also part of the sustainable, self-sustainable units that we incorporated into the design. The client has continued, of course, multiplying production. So right now there are about a total of 100 students live on board, forming this Life on Water community. And speaking of community, 8 House, one of our early residential projects, is a great example of how a strong urban community is created through the design of the project. The most distinct feature that the project has is its inner courtyard and open ramp that essentially takes you from visitors from ground floor up to 10th level that is openly accessible, that links 476 residents within the community. So there are about 100 units that has a private, semi-private garden along the open ramp. This definitely promotes interactivity between the public, semi-public, and private zone. It also gives the residents a great sense of community, that every neighbor knows each other, of course, and then their kids growing up playing together. And this was a photo taken from last year in the midst of COVID. A group of residents had taken the initiative to start a little tradition where every evening the families would step out to the open ramp or onto their balconies, where they would spend 5 minutes to sing a song, and then to relieve the social isolation that they endure throughout the day. So, and then the residents would end with everyone clapping in the end, saying good evening and see you tomorrow. That kind of bounds the whole community stronger than ever. Another project example is the waste energy plant that we call Copenhagen. This is probably the biggest sustainable statement that our office has built to date. This we were inspired by the advanced technologies of a waste energy plant today that burns mountains of trash and converts the energy into the city district heating and electricity. So, and during this process, there was no environmental impact to the surroundings or to the city. So we wanted to showcase that advanced technology by introducing a ski slope onto the roof and creating a real artificial mountain. And this was a competition that we eventually won. And then fortunate enough to have a client that had shared the same vision and then realized it. So on top of the green roof, we have local species that was planted. So, you know, besides a ski hill, visitors can really actually take a hike up this mountain and have a great view out to the city. So people are now who comes to Copenhagen can enjoy a whole season skiing. Here in the section, you can see how much a lot of engineering work went into the building to make it happen under the ski slope. And since it was opened 2019, the project has welcomed on so many visitors to experience the project. There's also the tallest climbing wall in the project in the background that extends 100 meters up high. So this project was kind of a statement that our office has achieved to. It was a strike. In the reality was that it really made sustainable architecture visible to people in these achievements. Next, I'm going to show a project that actually is without buildings, but I think it's quite relevant to today's forum in terms of making a design through public participation. Superkillen was a project, an urban park master plan that we teamed with Topotech and Superflex. Topotech is a landscape architect, and Superflex is a group of young avant-garde artists that we teamed together. This was located in the city center of Copenhagen in a district called Nørrebro. On the screen, you can see the red plaza and then kind of extends upward in a linear open space. Formerly, the red square, formerly the site was a light rail going through the city. So here you can see red square, it was a train station where you keep the light rail wagon. So you kind of see this wedge shape that's naturally formulated around these buildings. And then naturally, we up along the strip where you can see the global park is basically the site is almost undevelopable because the buildings were not, the site was not wide enough, given the setback to build any buildings. So the city put out an RFP to call for a new type of urban space that can reach the people of the community. So naturally, we divided this up into a red square, a black market, and then a green park. So given the site boundary and constraints, the red square represented modern urban life with cafe, music, and sports. The black square is more of a classic square where we introduced fountains and leisure benches. The green park, this long stretch, is a park for picnics or sports, and then also a place to walk your dogs. The little bit of a background to the context. Nørrebro was the most diverse neighborhood. Back then, it was a kind of an edgy environment, industrial part of the city where rent was cheap. So a lot of immigrants actually moved there and called the whole community home. It has over 60 different nationalities all living together in the neighborhood. So we felt it was important not to choose any kind of a Danish bench or a Danish design lamppost or any kind of a Danish urban furnitures for the project. It was important to actually choose the object for the people from these countries. So this is how we saw as a chance to build bridges between people and the community. So instead of us designing a park, the team, we would go out and ask people what they think the neighborhood was missing or what they loved most about the parks and the plazas from their own home country. And then they could nominate an object from there, to propose. The whole design process led to a series of public both presentations and discussions. There were over 100 meetings held with different people, sometimes twice a day. There was a lot of feedback given to what the people wanted. A website was created back then to inform the public latest development of the project. There was also announcements in the local newspaper and radio to encourage people to put ideas out there. Overall, there was 1,000 ideas that came through and came through to our office. Here, the city also put out ad campaigns to also make the promotion to gain public feedback. So ultimately, the team, big, Topotech and Superflex, we curated these 1,000+ objects down to 108 objects and 11 tree types from all over the world to populate this urban space. They range from litter bins, benches, manhole covers, bicycle racks, sports items, lighting, lamps to advertising posts, bus shelters, fountain, etc. But in this particular project, we view ourselves not as architects, but rather as curators of crowdsourced objects. So this is the red square, which composed a lot of different components. We used both colors to really tie all these different objects together. Otherwise, you would feel a sense of a looseness to it. So if you visit the plaza, you would come and see a variety of fitness equipment, children's slides that was brought in from all over the world. There's also a Thai boxing ring with sandbag from Thailand, a loudspeaker system from Jamaica, handpicked to allow somebody, if you want to, you can hook up to your iPod or iPhone, to blast out your favorite tune and share with the neighborhood. There are, of course, little elements from bollards, bike stands, road sign, even a bus shelter that was brought in. There were elements, of course, in the project that we were not able to bring in from its own original countries. Then they were built one-to-one. So, for example, the Moroccan fountain that you see in the black square was kind of replicated here. But then, however, there were for instance, the greenery, the palm trees was actually brought in from China because the weather really suited the Danish condition. The octopus from Japan with the lamppost from Germany is also a good combination. And then the slides here gives you a very good representation of how diverse the neighborhood is and how much it's loved by the children. There are hundreds. There's several types of benches, and this one specifically is quite unique. A double chair from Mexico that you can have a conversation with the person sitting next to you face to face. Benches from Belgium is also unique in the sense that it looks out and in a circle form. Basketball hood from Somalia, East Africa, that we've also introduced in the urban park. Of course, there are also sculptures, signage, as I mentioned, throughout the green park. And lighting was also brought in from various countries because earlier on, people would say the existing site was not well lit enough, so people didn't feel safe to walk there at night. And then now we've introduced these elements that actually really brightens up the neighborhood. Project actually was opened in 2012, and back then we almost 10 years ago. Back then we created an app with the GPS tracking. So if you come to the park, the app would tell you, obviously identify where you are and give you a history and a story of each object of the park. We think this was a very successful project because it brought the neighborhood together, because the idea actually came from the residents, and then it gave them a sense of belonging as immigrant, as a majority of the community consists of immigrant. And on the other hand, I wanted to final project that we are finishing in Singapore. This is relevant in a sense to Hong Kong's urban condition, where site or building is very tight. Here we try to introduce the tower in the middle, introduce a greenery to the tower. So on the facade is a pinstripe tower that we opened up to kind of like curtains that we peel open to kind of explore these sky garden urban oasis up in the tower. So in the sense that it welcomes the public to go up to enjoy, and also for the tenants in the office tower to use. So here, the largest span of this old urban oasis is about 20 meters high. That's in the middle of the tower. So in this case, urban to improve urban qualities, we introduce a lot of greenery, not only in the streetscape, the podium roof, and then also within the tower, and also on top of the roof of the tower. So you get a sense of really open air, tropical feel as you experience the project. And this would be open to public when it's completing in the later this year in November. So these are some of the recent photos that that it's looking, and then the trees are slowly being planted up into the building. So with this, I will conclude here, and then turn the table back to Yin. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. That's great. I mean, it's so exciting to see all this amazing work. I guess we are running a bit overrun from the session before you, so sorry about that.
Sorry
but
also,
I think
maybe
I will.
Also took too long.
I think let's dive directly deep into the difficulties. I mean, we all see how exciting Bjarke is doing. A lot of values you embodied, you empowered, you the playfulness, the human-centric approach, and the sensitivity to the people who use it. So we see a lot of bold design, bold color, the skiing slope, and the exterior design. You're having plantation butching out. How do you go around this? How do you persuade the local government or your client to accept this crazy idea? Although I find it really, really intriguing. I loved it. So yeah, how?
Well, I think that's maybe just take two of the examples I used in the, for example, the Copenhagen waste energy plant. I mean, to begin with, this was a competition that the client asked for a facade design to kind of beautify their energy plant. But then in the process of design, we realized that the technology was so advanced that there's no harm to the environment. So we kind of really wanted to take that, and then, because in a sense, the building itself needs to be known, right? We saw it as an opportunity to share that knowledge with the public. So we thought of bringing a ski slope to the roof, and then the client also saw. I believe they also definitely saw the power of it being a advertisement to showcase their company and how great their technology is these days. So there is, of course, from different point of perspective that bought into the project. So that kind of won us the competition, and then of course, with the support of realized it. And once now it's realized, it has its reality. So then it become spreading of words, so that it's no longer a dream. So I think that's it takes that kind of a eureka approach to get your clients to buy in. And for example, the Capta Spring project, of course, in a very dense urban condition where you have to build a tall tower that maximizes the floor plate, where the developer is always asking for. But then they also ask us to reach the maximum height to give that landmark sense in the skyline of Singapore, to reach 280 meters. But then in reality, the project brief, the GFA, was not enough. So this 20-meter Sky Garden Oasis was kind of a boost for us to go to the client and say, look, if you bring this public realm into your tower, then there is that presence you want to the skyline. But then also at the same time, the client also received extra GFAs in incorporating this public park up in the tower from the government. So it's this kind of a win-win situation where it doesn't come often for every project, but we do try to find them throughout our design process.
Great. Like, so you are, sorry, also leveraging the technology on one hand to mitigate the risks or the, lowering the threshold for the client to, okay, first listen to your idea. But I also want from the other end, like from the users and or from the people's, how do you incorporate that? Do you also find it strategically valuable to incorporate the people's voices in negotiating your design with big developers or landlords such as government?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. We are very open to dialogue, especially in these public projects, because it's actually, ultimately you're building for the people, so we have to design around their desires. Of course, when you get so many voices that's coming in, you just have to, of course, you have to be able to filter the opinions and comments and then kind of curate, the project as a whole. So I guess, Super Keeling was that kind of an exercise that, you get about 1,000 ideas, then you have to then narrow it down to, to see what makes sense. And then, of course, there are going to be opposing opinions to certain objects that we place in the project, but then that's the reality of the society, right? So I do think it's a balance of finding, or curating the design.
Yeah. Before I ask the floor for any question, I want to follow up on especially when you're doing the Copenhagen or like Harbor Bath, say for example. I mean, all this project, and also the urban riggers, like all this project, they have several elements happening all at once, like sustainability, communal, and also green as in not just this ecology, but also green for our future, self-sustaining food, like all these ideas. Do you find them complementing, or actually sometimes it could be too much or too redundant to have too many desires all happening at once? Or do you find it really logical for Bjarke for the big group to, this is like our core value, we do every project like that? How do you see it?
I think our core value or trying to incorporate sustainability, I think it's two things. We always try to keep an open mind to explore what's possible out there. And at the same time, I don't think you need to incorporate all new technologies or all sorts of sustainable approaches onto one project, because I think that's a bit unrealistic. And then, and because there's no single solution that can solve it all, right? Because there are multiple elements that contribute to that has factors onto the project. So if we can, I would personally, I would always take the approach that if we can showcase one value that's meaningful to the client or to the community through one project, I think that's already very successful. You don't have to try to, to do 2, 3, or 4, 5 multiple things at once. And then by realizing that one element becomes reality, and then people are going to then listen to you based on that, and then therefore you are then potentially, taking the next project, to realize the previous ideas that you didn't realize.
So yeah, essentially one step at a time, and be clear about what you do. Great advice. So moment for a floor to take. We may be able to take one question, or because my clock is already reddish. Any question from the floor? It's okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So I think we'll keep you updated if we receive any message or question afterwards. We have also online audience. So thank you very much, Eric, again for sharing the great project to Hong Kong. And maybe we hope someday we could also bring you in. Interesting collaboration between Bjarke and Hong Kong.
Yes.
Great.
So.
Catch up soon.
Thank you so much.
Take care, Eric.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Eric，亦都多謝晒。